Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody, wherever you are. Welcome to the Vegan World 2026 Moonshot podcast. And today we are going to be talking about indigenous wisdom with someone I admire who has embodied indigenous wisdom in her life's work, Dr. Anita Sanchez. I'm going to introduce you to her. So, welcome, Dr. Sanchez. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
And, so tell us a bit about your background.
Yes. Well, I grew up in Missouri, and my tribe is Nawa, which is most people know as Aztec. That's on both sides of my family. And because of the movement of colonists and stuff, there is also a part of me that's desert indigenous as well as from the Amazon. But I don't have stories about that.
Okay.
So just more learning. And I just love the possibility in us doing this conversation together. I'm in Colorado, Boulder, Colorado, where we're seeing, as we are everywhere, we just may be blind to it, but we're seeing very clearly the results of global warming.
Right.
There's smoke everywhere. We've had some of the worst air pollution. So I'm thinking right now, and I'm wearing in particular lots of birds and all the different animals, because I know as we two-leggeds are struggling dealing with it, we do other things that also have consequences, like filtering the air with the air conditioners and things. But these birds and that, all the animals, I'm just so aware of the cost to them by us two-leggeds.
Oh, thank you so much for that. It breaks my heart to see that birds don't have water, and especially in Arizona. So we actually put water out every day for them, and the suffering among the four-legged is
it's huge.
It's
it's everywhere. And so that's where I feel like the work and contributions, you and all the people who are part of your global movement and what we're doing, it's also aligned, because at the same time that there's such great suffering, there's also
sorry.
No, that's fine. I think what's great is audiences just know this is real. We're not doing performance here, so we get all sorts of sounds. But the possibilities, what I also see, the coming together, the collaboration, finally getting a red code came from the scientists just in the last day. So this is not just a story made up. This is something a reality that we get to shift if we choose to, both, and it'll take us individually and definitely collectively to do that. So I feel like the time is right. And in some ways, although I don't want the suffering with this smoke and stuff from the 100 fires in the west part of the United States, I also am in somewhat gratitude that in every day and every way, I cannot ignore, I cannot go back to sleep. And for that, I'm just really grateful.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, I feel like that too. I feel like I'm alive at one of the most critical times in human history, and I have a responsibility to do my duty.
Yes.
To whatever gifts I bring, whatever it is, I need to put that to work.
Yes.
Yeah.
And with that, I think there's joy, because I know it's this time everything is so heavy because it is serious. But that's the whole thing I love about being on the journey of being a whole human being, remembering what that is. So it's the earthly, being present to all the beauty and joy and the suffering, but also know I'm more than that. I'm also spirit. And so it's about not doing a bypass either way, but it's about really in this fullness, in the hoop of life. I'm doing this because I just always remember my elders, and as I was little growing up, they would always, in teaching us, they'd put their arms out in a circle, but not like up, down, but flat, because they would say, we're two-leggeds and we're part of one hoop of life, one earth, and no one's higher, no one's lower. And so to be a whole human being is to remember how to be in right relationship with all our relatives. And so that's my life journey. And in part of that journey too is every day part of my practice is I'm giving gratitude and thanks to the Great Mystery, which
Mhm.
people have different names for that, of course, Allah, God, Jesus, universe, energy, Buddha. I mean, all different types of names. But basically, it's just that, I don't know it all.
Right.
And yet I know I am so clear as I know my face and as I see your face right there, that there is the great mystery at work on our behalf. I think there's a great conspiring on our behalf. And
Mhm.
for that, then there's also joy because I'm never alone. I mean, none of us are ever alone. We might get lonely, especially with all the things going on, but we're not alone.
Absolutely. Yeah, I know you. I mean, I can see it in your face. I feel it. That I also go through the same kind of experiences. I know I'm part of something much, much larger, and I'm just doing my bit. I don't know everything. I don't see everything, but whatever I see, I'm going to do my best.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, yeah, it is amazing. Uh,
And that's part of what in my conversation in the past with you that I
mhm,
really love about your work in that, because we do have some humility with our leadership. And in
mhm,
ceremony, from different traditions that I get to be a part of, even on Zoom, that's what's coming through in part, is that it is an urgent time. There is a call for us to respond. It's
right.
not about complacency, but it's also with humility that we're going to keep gathering in community, keep moving forward, and that it's not always perfect and looks great. And sometimes I go like this, days like that, and you're like, oh my gosh. And I'm going, well, let's just be real with each other. So
Right.
so that we can really support each other instead of being in righteous judgment. I
Right.
think it's much I'm finding that people really resonate because everyone's heart is hurting,
Mhm,
no matter what kind of facade we put on. And so the fact that we leave open everything, just as the universe is for us, to make things
mhm,
healthy and life giving,
right.
it's good.
Yeah, I know when you're working on solutions and you're working on healing, you are in joy because that's you're doing something positive, right? So you're working on solutions. You're in terms of games, it's like you're on the offense. You're not playing defense.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I
Right.
haven't used that analogy, but you're right. It is it when you hold the knowing, and I think that's part of what's shifting is the worldview, which has been so for so long now, where we've forgotten that we think we're separate. There's
Mhm,
so much in different cultures around the world and that's pushing this individual. And of course we love the individual, but the hoop
mhm,
of life is about we. And so that's really when you know that you are part of this whole hoop of life, and you
right.
have everything that you need here, it gives you a sense of confidence, a sense of knowing that you are part of, as you said, something bigger. But I know even in the depths of poverty in my early years, and when I say poverty, there's different kinds of poverty.
Mhm,
Economic poverty. I mean,
mhm,
my initial years, there were 8 of us in 2 rooms. That was our home, and so you can imagine it was
mhm,
pretty tight. And I remember I had 3 outfits. One was for Sunday, and
mhm,
the other two I would just wear and wash all the time. And that was just and things. But at the same time, there were other things that seemed like economic poverty, but it was not spiritual poverty. In that I had
yes.
the learnings from the elders of different traditions, my grandmother who taught me so much,
Mhm,
and then my mom who would teach us how to cook. And we would, of course, cook with anything we could find in the garden, in the yard, things that I didn't know that you could use to cook. That's what we cook with. And she would call it, though, she would title like enchiladas. I just made them the other day, so it's made me think about them. I'll try not to get too hungry on your show. But she called them poor man enchiladas.
mhm,
And why they were poor man is because there was no meat in them,
mhm,
but we didn't need the meat. They
right.
were delicious. They were corn tortilla and stuffed with potato and onions, and sometimes she added, but always lots of herbs. And it was so flavorful that now when I go to restaurants and I see the other kind of enchiladas, I'm like, no, I think those are the poor in losing sight.
Okay.
Where that I was actually having the rich man, the rich human beings enchilada.
Right.
And I think that's I'm still on the road of rediscovering. I'm not
Mhm.
arrived, but when there's organizations like yours that keep reminding us about how we can be even healthier. And I
Mhm.
just have to say this because I remember, I think one of the last conversations we had, I wanted you to know that when the COVID hit,
Mhm.
not knowing what was going on, I remember sitting out in my back deck, and I sit in the foothills of the Rocky Mountains. And I was like, all right, Anita, you know your patterns. You could go into despair, which you know that you won't stay there
Mhm.
long because there's too many good things they're pulling, but you could do that. You could eat like crazy and just gain a lot of weight. I'm not into alcohol, so that wasn't. So I just went through all the scenarios. So what is it that you are teaching people, that elders are teaching you? What is it for you to do? What's missing? And
Mhm.
like, well, it's the journey, how to be more, even more in life-giving relationship with all my relatives. So
Mhm.
I started changing my eating more consciously to be vegetarian. Some of the meals were definitely vegan, but
Mhm.
what happened is, oh my gosh, I've forgotten. I have so much more energy and clarity.
Right.
So you would think, and I know this is what you already know, but I'm saying this for those of you who are listening on Facebook or some that are, like, I'm not a Rye. It's about enjoying the process, and it's about,
Right.
continuing. And when I fall off, one of the things I've always learned is that to have compassion for myself and
Mhm.
to get back up and to get
Exactly. Yeah.
again. And
Right.
that's to know that, oh, that I'm not doomed, I'm not wrong, I'm not all the negative things that people are
Mhm.
saying to each other, othering the other person, rather than, no, we need you all here. And so if you feel that, those of you who are watching and listening to us, we need every one of you, whatever your external circumstances are, whether you're wealthy or economically poor, whether you have big family or no family, immediate family, whatever it is, you're needed. You're so
Right.
needed here. What I was about to say was the economic poverty has taught me that, but also the childhood abuse that I endured. And
Mm.
it was how I endured that was sometimes not the two-leggeds. The elders, when I would go see the elders, that was very helpful, but it was really the trees and the
Mm.
stars and knowing that, oh my gosh, but they're here and I'm part of this.
Mhm.
And knowing that, and then the biggest blow, and I'm just saying some of these because I want people to know that I'm my awakening doesn't come out of I had immediately arrived there. I don't think that's true for any of us, regardless of
Right.
your background. But that has been a journey. But when the murder of my father happened when I was 13, and it was race related,
Mm.
he was very dark skinned, and he worked in a steel mill shoveling coal. And after work, he was also an alcoholic. He would go and get a beer. And that summer in 1967, he didn't know earlier that day a black man and a white man had a fight.
Mm.
And while he sat there, the white man returned and only saw his profile and shot 3 bullets through him and killed him on the spot. And that was pivotal. I say it just because of the things we're undergoing now, all the things that are happening, awareness about, oh, the different legal treatment to people who are dark skinned, on
Mhm.
and on that we're seeing that we now get to correct. So that event that happened was very critical for me to understand that I always have choice. Sometimes it doesn't feel like a lot of alternatives, but I have
Right.
choice. And for a while, I was so hurt and angry and just feeling like, oh my gosh, all these people, they really are out to get us, in spite of the fact that my elders, my mom, my grandma, were saying, no, no, a one white person killed your father, not the white race.
Mhm.
But what I did learn in that time I was holding it is that it kills us. It is a killing thing from the
Right.
inside out if we don't use the gifts that now I get to be a messenger of. And forgiveness is one of those. And
Right.
the ability to truly forgive, not just say, oh, I forgive, but truly understand that whatever did or did not happen to me or whole groups of people, it's not about forgetting it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about being disloyal. It's not about not seeking justice, changing systems and structures so that they're life-giving. But my energy, as you know this, because this
Right.
is the way you live, my energy can be used for now to help create what it is that's wanted in the now and in the future. And
Right.
all that hurt and comes with distrust of self and others. Well, I put up a big armor, Rob. I don't know that I don't know if that you would really recognize me, but when my early teen years, I just had such an armor. I was keeping out of the bad stuff, so nobody's going to hurt me.
Mm.
Or maybe this sounds true for some of you who are listening and watching. Doesn't matter what your age, but you may know about that wall. But when there was a realization as others just kept coming and seeing other things about me, and I was like, oh, if you only knew, if you only knew. It's like, wait a minute.
Right.
And what happened is that wall started going down because it kept out the good stuff.
Mm.
It didn't just keep out, oh, I'm defended, no, nothing's going to hurt. But, and then realize, yeah, to be alive means you're going to have some pains and some hurts and mistreatments. Oh, gosh, I get the gift of healing. I get to heal that, But you also have all these extraordinary people and beings that are in our lives that I wouldn't trade for anything. And to be alive, as you said at this time, just take a deep breath. That is like, thank you.
It's beautiful, Anita. I mean, it is. You're here at this time, and you have brought these sacred gifts for all of us to receive, and and improve ourselves with that. And
Yeah.
it is timeless wisdom.
It is timeless wisdom.
Yeah.
The gifts of the elders. So may I say a little bit about the Eagle
Sure.
Hoop prophecy?
Mm-hmm.
So because this is, again, we do nothing alone. A lot of people go, oh, you're the messenger. I was like, wow, but there are many of us. We're everywhere. And it comes from elders. So back in the 90s, which is a prophecy arose. And we live, indigenous people, we live by prophecy. Prophecy doesn't foretell the future, but what these prophecies do show us is that given how, whether we listen to the original instruction, that is our connection to all our relatives or not, here are some possibilities that could happen. So back in 94, a Mohican elder, Don Coyas, amazing man, who has a just incredible work that he does with white bison. He had a vision. He was sleeping, and in that vision came this light. And as it came down on his forehead, he saw a tree, and the tree just kept growing, and it went through the different seasons to where in winter, but the limbs fell off, not only the leaves, but all of it. And then what was left was one branch, and it formed a circle. And then more light dropped, and each of the light, as it touched the circle, this hoop, the light would turn into a feather and attach to where there are 100 eagle feathers attached to this hoop. And then he got the message that he's to call out all over the world, because the human beings have forgotten that we are one. And he sees the color, the 4 race colors of the world, all in one hoop. And so then he talked to the other elders, an elders council, which we always have about community. Go back to community, and they told him, you have to do this. This is not something. And all of you know who are listening, when something comes through, not just from the head, but from the heart or from the gut, then you may not even know how to do it. And they said, you've got to do that. And so you put the call out and goes, how am I going to get 100 eagle feathers? Who's going to come? Well, 27 elders showed up from all over the world, from every direction. And over the couple of months where he was putting out the call, eagle feathers started arriving. And then they spent a weekend, and they chanted and danced, these 27 elders. They meditated, and together they created this hoop with the 100 eagle feathers. And they put from spirit in ceremony 4 gifts in there for all humankind. So here, these are for you, for all of us, to help us remember how to create harmony and balance again. And so the 4 gifts are: the first, the power to forgive the unforgivable.
Mm.
The power to forgive the unforgivable. Put that in the ceremonial part of your heart.
Right.
And the second gift is the gift of the power of healing. The gift of the power of healing. Put that in the ceremonial part of your heart. And the third gift for all humankind to create balance and harmony is the gift of the power of unity.
Mm.
Put the gift of the power of unity into the ceremonial part of your heart. And the fourth gift they put into the hoop for all of us is the gift of the power of hope. Hope in action. Put the gift of the power of hope in the ceremonial part of your heart. And just breathe that in as it already is, and it's already expanding, because what is already you are aware of from your heart, from your gut, and your mind follows is you already have these gifts. But we need to remember to use them. And that's the Eagle Hoop prophecy. And these gifts, ever since then, in 1995, then I was at a gathering where I was teaching young indigenous people various things that I teach in corporate world around team development and a whole variety of things. But how do you keep what is true to you in places and in times that seem antithetical? And so what I have found since then, I was beginning to lose hope. I thought, I don't know about my visions as a little girl that I've always has pulled me to connect the hearts of people all over the world, that I know that's what I'm to be doing. I started to lose hope, but then I got these gifts, and all of a sudden it was like when that you just know, it just comes in and you're like, oh, okay. So then I just started weaving that flesh into everything that I do, the 4 gifts. So whether I'm in the C-suite with executives, or whether I'm in the middle of the Amazon, and the great thing is I come as a messenger, because the reality is that people already know, but they're eager. Everyone is eager, like, okay, what might I have forgotten? What did my ancestors have to teach me? What's worked for you? And we get to share all this with each other in knowing that all of what we need is here. It always is.
Right. So let's go through the gifts one by one. Okay, so the power of the gift of forgiving the unforgivable.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess when you have the power to do that, then you also then acquire the power to go seek forgiveness
Yes.
from
It's
others.
both are true. Because sometimes what's harder is the forgiving of yourself.
Right.
That can be really tough. I mean, people were like, you actually have forgiven the man who murdered your father? And I truly have. I truly have. And the young boy who I met briefly right after my father died, a week after. This is sort of important because I really think this forgiveness gift, all of them are very critical, but this is so critical for all of us to use. A week after my father was murdered, a white woman and a young white boy who was probably around my age, I was 13 at the time, came to the door, and I was standing by my mom, and the woman introduced herself as the wife and the son of the man who murdered my father. And I know, I can just imagine, I can still see and sense what our faces are like. And she said, I had to come talk to you, Mrs. Sanchez. I had to see you because you need to know that my husband is a good man. He never would have killed your husband if he knew he was Mexican and Native American. He thought he was Black. And you know how Black people are. And she started saying all these horrible things about Black people. And I remember my mom, who was this short little woman, but oh my God, her feet went into the ground. She was so strong. And I remember her kind of shaking. And then it's the only time I heard her yell at a stranger. And she just said, stop what you're saying. You don't even know the hatred that you're teaching your son. I want you to know I'm going to try really hard to pray for your soul, but you get off my porch. And she gathered us kids that night. And that's when she told us, that all white men murdered my father, not the white race. And that there are people who have images and biases about us. She didn't use the word bias. She says they're confused. And so I want you to know you have to be discerning to keep yourself safe, but that most people want what all human beings want. They want love. They want They want to have a good life, be able to work and
Right.
to share and all those things that we all know we want all over the world. And so there, I then go into corporate world very young. I started at 21,
Mm.
and rooms of people. I was doing I still do diversity, equity, inclusion, belonging work. And I listened to all these white people in circles talking about how they love their parents. And many of them, not all of them, many of them said, no, they were taught that they were better than us.
Mhm. Right.
And but they didn't believe that. And they were doing things different. And that 13-year-old Anita, something happened in that adult Anita while she was facilitating these circles. The 13-year-old Anita was so caught in her pain and hurt
Mhm.
that she could not, at that time, she chose not to be open to the other truth, not
Mhm.
just the truth of the murder of her father, but the larger truth. But I was seeing these people, these white people, men and women, who were creating policies and doing things not nearly fast enough, but they were doing their part.
Right.
And so what I realized, oh my gosh, it hit me, Salesh. I I all of a sudden could see this young white boy's face outside my front door.
Mhm.
And what I realized that I was doing because of my pain, I had taken away his face. His face wasn't really clear. And then it became totally clear, like completely clear to where I know today if I saw this older white man, I would know who he was. And what I made sense of that was that that summer day, my 5 brothers and sisters and I lost our father,
Mhm.
and it changed things. However, that summer day, that white boy lost his father too.
Right.
And he grew up knowing his father was a murderer. So that hit me in such a way, and in that I knew that I forgive you. I forget, but it took me longer to forgive
Mm.
myself because
Mm.
what I was doing was exactly what I didn't want, what I felt his father had done to my father, took away his humanity. I was taking away that white boy's face. I was literally taking away his humanity and his
Mm.
either actual or potential to be a life-giving force in the world.
Mhm.
And that took me a while to forgive myself for that. So forgiving the unforgivable, and even though it's very difficult when I'm sure all over the world, people have read about the mass graves that they're finding in Canada, and
Right.
the graves
Mhm.
exist here of indigenous people.
Right.
And I truly, from my heart, forgive the people who did this. But that forgiveness doesn't mean that I don't use my energy to correct the systems and structures, to
Right.
be my part of the behavior change that needs to happen now, because the remnants of that still exist and we can change it now.
Right.
Yeah. So that's the power of forgiving the unforgivable. And I can imagine a lot of people are watching and listening to this. There are things that are popping forward. And that's why I asked you to put that in the ceremony part of your heart, because whatever it is that comes,
Mhm.
just heed it, because even if you don't know how, it's come forward because you have the capacity, and we do nothing alone. So my journey wasn't alone. Those white folks, just as the people of
Right.
color, the elders, all the trees that I trusted as a child who was abused, had more trust in them and more leery of the two-leggeds. I mean, all of this comes into play to help us do not only the forgiving, but the second gift, which is healing.
Just healing. Yes.
Yeah, it's so good.
So, yeah, before we go to the
Yes,
second gift, I just wanted to relate something that happened to me just
yes, please.
in the last couple of weeks. I saw this documentary called Gunda,
Hmm. I'm gonna
and
write
it's
that down.
yeah, it's Gunda, Gunda. I'll post it
Okay.
on the comments. So basically, it's a documentary there. They were following a mother pig and her children for 2 months until the children got taken away from her.
Oh,
And when the children got taken away from her, the mother just went around
mm,
looking for her babies, and and obviously in distress. And then finally, she just stopped and looked into the camera And I mean, that look, uh, I see it directly in front of me. That look was basically saying, "What are you guys doing? Do you know what you're doing?" And I felt like I wanted to go and seek her forgiveness,
Yeah.
and beg her. But then she's in Norway, right?
Mhm.
So I thought, oh, I have to go to Norway and beg her forgiveness. And then I realized there are gundas everywhere.
Yes. There you
There are
go.
animals everywhere. There are mothers, animals, four-legged mothers everywhere who have been suffering like this. In the dairy industry, in the meat industry, in every one of these industries, right? So, and it's our job to now, to seek their forgiveness and to let go.
Yeah. Seek forgiveness, let go, and create new systems and structures. So we're
Right,
not totally there yet, but I know you're
right,
aware in the last few days, the
right.
law passed in California where it said you must, for pigs and hogs, give so much space. I mean, what we do is just unthinkable
Right.
how we treat them and the disease we cause and the suffering. It's what you were talking about, being able to see Gunda, see her, the face of the mother. So now they're doing that. And of course, it raises awareness, and we know that it'll sweep across the country. And of course, you're going to hear everything like, "Oh, pork prices are going up."
Right.
Yeah, but let's keep going. But it's a start. Keep going and look at what this means, that we get to be in healthy relationship. And thank you so much for bringing up her. I'm going to watch that movie.
Mm,
But what has been happening to me lately, as I'm on my journey of eliminating certain foods, and
mm,
that is what keeps coming to me is in 2019, some of the last of my ceremonies, I was in Scotland.
mm.
And I remember my friend taking me I'd never been to Scotland, the countryside. And I saw on the hillsides all of these pigs, but they weren't like in the US. They were at their little huts. They were free. It wasn't packed. It was like they looked happy. They looked like they were jumping and
Right.
joyful, like my golden retriever. And it made me think not only like, oh my gosh, what are we doing? What are we doing? You've got to pay more attention. You've got to be part of the movement to shift this. But also, then you go the next step. Well, we should treat them, but why are we eating them at all?
Right.
Why are we? What we don't need to do this.
Right.
This is, but that image, just like you were talking about the movie.
Right.
Thank you, because I've been telling friends about it as this law just got passed in California.
Mm,
That I will forever grateful to those fields, those hills in
mm,
Scotland, seeing
mm.
these happy. I've never seen a happy pig unless it was a pet of somebody's.
Right. Mm.
Otherwise, oh my gosh, that's some of my relatives that I can't disregard. I choose not to disregard. It's not about can't. We can. It's about choosing not to
Yes.
disregard anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oof.
Choosing life over death, right?
Yes,
That's what.
absolutely, absolutely. And so, forgiving the unforgivable, it's a gift we have to keep using over and over,
Mm,
and forgiving ourselves lets you then go further,
right.
because then you don't have the paralysis or the shame, all the things that can keep
Mm,
you stuck. Instead, it's like you release that. All right, ready.
yes.
More energy to draw on.
So the gift of healing, the
Yeah.
second gift. Yes.
Yeah, the
Mm,
gift of healing, of course. So, in part of my practice every morning, I always I give I chant and give gratitude to the Great Mystery. But then I also, before I even get out of bed, I just go, "Oh, I get to heal today. I get to
mm,
heal." And I've said it sometimes out loud, and my kids, who now are in their 20s, but they say, "I don't think other moms say these kinds of things." And I go, "Yeah, but it's a great day to heal." And so I'm just going to allow whatever comes forward that I'm supposed to heal, pay attention to. So that's the first thing when we talk about this gifts of healing. As I studied um, some traditions, indigenous traditions around the world, I found 4 elements present. So all these different ways of healing, from
mm,
talking circles and sweats to meditation. I mean, just beautiful everywhere. So, but what I found in all of one of them, the first thing for us to heal is listening.
mm.
How do we know it needs to be healed unless we listen to it? We got to pay attention to it. Of course, dramatic healing, like break a leg, you kind of the pain. So you're
Right.
listening. But there's some other things that we it's too easy, the tendency push it down. Nope, 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 nope. So when we listen with the softest part of our ears and expanding heart, is what I say, has helped me over time to learn to listen even better. Then we're able to identify what it is that needs healing. The second piece of the healing that I want to share with everyone, these wonderful followers of yours,
Mhm.
is the is supportive relationships. So I
Mhm.
found listening, supportive relationships. Those relationships could be two-legged, other human beings, but in different traditions, it's the trees, it's the water,
Right.
it's
Right.
the earth, it's it's the tadpole, it's the bird, it's all these different relatives. So getting those supportive relations and being mindful that they're there, they're helping you. The third thing is love
Mhm.
of yourself. What I hear from people and using these different tools is that the gap gets too great. So the healing must happen because you realize inside of each of us is this self-love. And some of
Mhm.
us has buried it, and it's out dares call it unconditional love of ourselves. And people, a
Mhm.
lot of people are like, oh, I don't know about that one, Edie. You're going to need to teach us a lot more about that. Like, no, what is say? We unconditionally love ourselves. So what we begin to see in the healing process is that coming back,
Right.
that schism that's generally just in our mind because it's always there. It comes
Mhm.
back into that. And then the final gift, final part of the four parts to healing that I found were present was getting into action.
Mm. Right.
Whatever it is, whether it's coming here and listening to us
Right.
and letting it spark what already is in you, whether it's taking a course or going to a retreat, a meditation, whatever it is that
Right.
you move. And guess what? Sometimes it's going to be, oh, well, that's not the action I thought it was going to be. Great, you just got closer now. You take
Right.
another one and another one.
Right.
It's really wonderful. So the gift of healing, and I certainly had from my early years lots to heal from, but lots of help. And as an adult, there's stuff that happens all the time, like we were just talking about with our relatives, the hogs and pigs, and I'm
Mhm.
in that process of healing now too, and of with all these mass graves found,
Mhm.
of what in me. Um, I don't mean to equate it with all the mothers and fathers who lost these children we've known for some time, but what have I buried?
Mhm.
What have I buried, consciously or unconsciously? What may I clear for my ancestors? Because I'm indigenous, I'm half indigenous, but I'm also have European blood, Spaniard,
Mhm.
Mexican, and the things that we did. And so every time we do healing, I know that I'm getting the help of the wisdom of the elders and my
Mhm.
ancestors, but I'm also clearing that for before, which has an impact on now, which then has an impact 7 generations out
Right.
for all those who come. So that gift of healing, it makes me very happy. So I
Right.
know it may seem contradictory to some people, like, how could you be so happy about healing? Oh, because it's the processes might be tough at times, but when you always know that it's going to lead to this more awareness, consciousness that follows in action, the
Mhm.
human being and the human doing comes together in the sacred way that it's meant to.
Beautiful. So let's get to the third gift.
Okay.
What
Ah,
is the third gift?
the third gift of unity. And
Yes.
how I met Celeste, because we were both involved in World Unity Week, and I just was like, oh my gosh, the aura, the energy of this person, and some the people that come to that. But unity is actually what most business leaders and things call me for.
Mm.
We got to get united, and so
Right.
all these gifts are connected. So you start wherever, but what you'll find out very quickly is they're intimately interconnected. And
Right.
so yes, we need to do things. We need to collaborate. But I will also say in this unity, it will become even greater beyond your imagination of where you can be in unity and collaboration, co-creation, if you take care of the forgiveness and the healing.
Mhm.
Because remnants of that, I still have it popping up. That's a lifelong journey. Things I'm like, whoa, No, that's not true. That wasn't true then. That was my hurt disguising the ability to trust, the ability to let go, and so that you can really be here now in what needs to be. Mother Earth is calling us and all of our relatives to
Mhm.
be whole human beings in this hoop, so that way we can really be life-giving, not only for now but for generations to come, for all the species and all the elements of the earth. So this unity, I just love that. I mean, that's what we're doing here, is you and I. What some could say, oh, this indigenous, and here's this Indian guys, and this vegan. How could this be? I mean, we know indigenous people, they still shoot and kill wild meat.
Right.
That's how in many places they live on that, and in between, they're eating the roots and the other things that exist, but not anything in the way that these things are not separators.
Right.
We need to come together in a deeper way. And that's what this gift of unity. I'd love to
Mhm.
hear if you had something about unity that you wanted to share. I know you're doing the interviewing here, but I had to turn on you because I get filled up. I told Celeste earlier, it's like he's part of my journey of
Mhm.
right there with the four gifts. There are a number of people that I see you. I sense your presence of continue, keep going. I'm getting in right relationship.
Mhm.
I don't know if you have
Yeah,
something.
for me, unity is unity of all life.
Yes.
Beginning to see every being as part of you. That it suffers, so it's another you. It's another you. That bird is another you. That ant is another you. So it it's fascinating to get that realization. This is part of our culture too.
Yeah.
We've been taught that, but it never really hit me until I started talking to my granddaughter, because she sees it in such a visceral way.
Young people.
I know, and so since the time she was born, I just let her be my teacher.
Yes. I get that. Yes. They hadn't forgotten. You're closer. That's why I continue to, in the unity, I
Mhm.
continue to say the dream that I can remember as early as 3 or 4. I'm not positive which age, but it was 3 or 4. It was before school, elementary school. And that dream of every night I would just dream, and there'd be all these stick people, different color, and we had our hands on each other's hearts. And I knew I was one of them. And there
Mhm.
were millions of us. And I remember when
Mhm.
I drew that, that was my drawing in kindergarten of unity.
Mhm.
But going further with the elders teaching, it's not only the two-leggeds, it's
Right.
the whole hoop. As Blackwell spoke, the hoop of life, the center is everywhere and the edge is nowhere.
Ah,
I love
beautiful.
Black Elk. Yeah. And so when you were talking, that's what came up for me, is like, yeah, the center is everywhere, in that bird, in that tree, in that leaf, in that sand,
Right.
in that water. It's everywhere. And the edge is nowhere, which means it's there is no other.
There is no other. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's no other.
Unity is the,
Beautiful.
yeah.
The fourth, of course, is the gift of hope. You talk about the gift of hope.
Yes.
Uh,
We take a little sip of water.
sure.
Very grateful for that.
So, how do you interpret that? Because I have been quoting Anthony de Mello, who said that hope comes from a position of fear, whereas faith comes from a position of love.
Mm.
Okay, he said
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
I think yes. And I was going to say, there's lots written about hope, and
Mm.
and some people say, get rid of hope. It's really makes you sit back, paralysis and stuff. And then others, so I think it's really key to know how we define it, because the hope that I was always taught about
Mm.
came from a spiritual place, came from that not knowing from the five senses. It was this larger.
Mm.
And it's hope that paralysis is the last thing or just sitting back and wait. And that it's hope
Right.
in action is
Hope in
what the
action.
elders always talked about. But we all know that many of the people who invent
Mm.
the things that initially came from a dream, a vision, the eagle hoop prophecy that I'm a messenger of, that came from spirit through. And And then it's going and it's helping remind people all over the world. So this hope, what I'm talking about, is one that is an energy. It is a energy source. We
Mm-hmm.
have it. It's infinite.
Mm-hmm.
People think, oh, I gave it, you took my hope. Nobody can take your hope. We have
Mm-hmm.
stories of people in the middle of on death row. Horrible. That's another horrible story. But we hear stories in situations now they're seeing where whole communities are burnt down from the
Right.
fires and stuff. And you hear people still saying, not not everything's gone. I can still vision
Mm-hmm.
the not only the people and us coming back, but the birds returning and the other animals returning, and what we're gonna it's gonna change, what we're gonna change. And you hear that. That's the
Mm-hmm.
kind of hope I'm talking about. So we can get, because we're human, we can get caught in just all the facts are now.
Mm-hmm.
And you and I could have gone down that road and cite all the negative things that are happening,
Right.
right? And I'm not saying that there are facts that some things are happening, but it is also fact and truth that comes from a place other than just the five senses. This hope, this understanding that the possibility, not only possibility, but some things are already unfolding, like the
Right.
California law. And
Mm-hmm.
so I want to share a story where, and because your granddaughter is the one that brought it
Sure.
up on hope, because it's one that I think of sometimes when I think, how are we going to get this? These sides are so divided.
Mm-hmm.
My oldest son, who's now 24, he
Mm-hmm.
was 18 months old when he had his blessing way, and a youth elder, Eddie Box, came to our home and did the blessing way. There were 13 of us in a circle. And I was holding my son. I took off his shirt first. And Eddie came over and he had this little box of sacred earth, just beautiful earth. And he opens it because he's going to first do the markings on his body, reminding that he
Mm-hmm.
is earth. Again, it's about uniting everything. But before he put his hands in them, my son, with his little chubby fingers, pushed Eddie Box's hand aside and he dipped his little fingers into the earth and he started marking his body. But
Mm-hmm.
not like an 18-month-old, you'd think. He was so exact. And Eddie just put out his hand further towards him and just allowed him to do the whole thing. And Eddie was just, they were just so connected. It's hard to describe this energy.
Mm-hmm.
And then when he was done, I put him down and Eddie gave him a flute. And he smiled and sort of set it
Mm-hmm.
down. But then Eddie just looked, they just were so connected. Like I imagine you and your granddaughter, there's this other energy
Right.
that is always present. And then Eddie went and sat back and began chanting and drumming. And my son, who was 5.5 at the time, Alex, was on the other side of him. And Nico, 18 months old, began to dance,
Wow.
but not like an 18-month-old dances. I was like, wait a minute, I haven't even taken him to a powwow. How does he know? I was even in my mind just watching him. We were all transfixed, and he was dancing. And then I could hear my son, the 5.5-year-old, say to Eddie, how does he know how to do that?
Mm.
And Eddie stopped chanting and looked at Alex, but we could feel his eyes on all of us. And my son just kept dancing.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, because the elders are with him.
Mm.
He's not forgotten. And they're with you too. And with all of us. We can remember.
That's
And he
so
started
beautiful.
again. And that to me, some hope. So hope comes in many different faces and ways.
Right.
But it is consistent in it. It is an energy source. It's a life-giving.
Mm.
And because pain, as Michael Beckwith said, pain pushes till vision pulls. That hope, that dream, waking dreams or sleeping, whatever it is pulling us. It is
Mm-hmm.
something.
Right.
And spirit is very much involved in this. This is definitely another realm. But thank you for letting me share that. Your granddaughter, whatever her age is now, I just sent her such love and you know, knowing that her awareness, her knowing, she hasn't forgotten that hope in action expanding for her,
Mm.
as I know it does for my son, because although he says, I don't remember all of that, but I sense something inside myself. I don't
Mm.
see the picture, but there's something. And I'm like, yes,
Yes.
that energy, yes.
Ray says, hope without faith is stagnant.
Yes.
And so
Yes.
we
Oh,
act on
I like
faith.
that.
Yeah. Right.
I love that. That's, again, this is also the time of all our traditions. And that's what I love about the Eagle Food prophecy, because it came from 27 elders, from Asia,
Mm.
from Europe, from Africa, from the Americas. I mean, they
Mm.
came from all over, that
Mm.
we are meant to bring these, what I call good medicine, this knowing of our different traditions together. And so I'm just really grateful. Many of these 27 elders are gone now, not all of them, but
Mm.
um, but those who are here and those who are not physically here are still here. And so I'm just really grateful. I'm grateful to you for allowing me to share these. And as people can sense, I'm hoping their body, they can feel the movement inside
Mm.
themselves, because it's the call. It's the call from all our relatives. It's the call from Earth herself and all the beings to move forward. And there's so much that we can do with these. I just appreciate giving us time to introduce them all and to let the begin to be even more awakened in people.
So tell us how people can take your course.
Yes. Oh, yes. Because in the last so many all over the world keep asking for this awareness. I finally realized, okay, Anita, and I went to the elders. I said, I'm creating an online course. They go, yes, well, we knew you would. It's good.
Mm.
You got a yes for that.
Right.
So I said, but it has to be in the right principles. Like whoever gets the course, the funds need to go back to indigenous people, to the
Mm.
communities, to continue to spread it, amplify this life-giving force that we all are and can be. So I created more in depth many of the practices that I'm not able to do in a 1 hour, but it's 6 modules.
Mm.
It's over close to 40 videos. There's
Mm.
exercises. There's contemplative. Every module also has a ritual
Mm.
and a meditation.
Mm.
Um, you'll hear in it from different elders. There's quotes from elders from different parts of the world,
Mm.
and it's a way to deepen your practice. So for those, and I know many here, it because we all humble, we know we don't know it all. There's deeper we can go, and I know even when I go to things well, that sounds like something I already done. Go. You're called go, because you will go deeper. So that's very powerful. Some of the stories I shared here, I share in a
Mm.
much deeper way, and others
Mm.
that because of your ability, people's being in it and choosing it, they're able to dive deeper. So we go pretty intimate into you're looking at and reflecting on your own life. Um, and you can do it at your own speed, because it's on a line, and
Mm.
it is the hoop. And here's the other thing, Salish, that I really struggled a long time and found people who could help me with it. I truly believe we are all sacred. So
Mm.
whatever, after hearing Salish and I today, is calling to you, that's where you're to begin. So in this course, there is the introduction, which we asked you to hear that, but then you can go wherever you're called. And the course is set up so you can move back and forth. There is
Mm.
no wrong way.
Mm.
There's only the way of going in right relation. So
Mm.
you can move about. And I really love that technology actually allow me to do that, which I'm able to do when I'm face to face with people.
Wonderful. So you can
Yeah.
take the modules in any order you like.
Yes, and go back and forth, and it keeps track of what you've already done, but you
Mm.
can go back and repeat. But yes, in any order, and then also if you like a more linear approach, which is also fine, we don't throw away any of them. Then it has where you can do the intro, and just in
Mm.
the way we talked about here, power to forgive the unforgivable, and you spend time on that, and then you move that into healing, and then from healing into unity, and then the final one is hope in action. And it's yes, I'm getting really good feedback, and I'm glad, and I'm particularly happy because when people purchase this, then a significant, if not almost all of the money, is
Mhm.
going back, and it's helping to make sure to continue to spread the message.
Mhm.
Part is going to White Bison, the elder that I told you about, who
Mhm.
serves indigenous people all over his community. So they
Mhm.
continue to do, they also sharing the four gifts. And yes, I'm just really happy. And I'm happy. I'm just so honored that you call yourself, and we already know this, we're each other's community. We are one community, one hoop of life. But it
Mhm.
is really wonderful to know that. So thank you. Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
really wonderful course. And it's so people know it's not a secret. It's $397.
Mhm.
And it can, what I'm finding for most people is to do justice to it, they're taking a month, but some of
Mhm.
them have now been using it for 3 months, and they're going back. They go, oh my gosh, I got to drop to another level and another level and another level. And this is what I'm doing. And that's what we hope, is that kind of support.
So once you sign up for the course, you're able to go back to it as much as you
Oh
want.
yeah, there's not a limit. You go, yeah, you can keep going, because as we know, just as you said, I know I was taught, that we're connected, but all of it's later we get to able to see and really know. Oh, I see you. You
Mhm.
are me. I am
Mhm.
you. We forever now are connected.
Right.
And then you get to the point where I may never even meet you or see you, and yet I know we are connected.
That's beautiful. I mean, that's to me, it's almost like you're giving us a treasure chest that
Oh,
we can keep going back to over and over.
oh, thank you. It feels like that. And I'm going to take your words back to some of the elders and say, hey, I did this, and listen to it. Because there is so much giving.
Hmm.
That's what I can say. And I know it's in traditions all over the world. So much giving from our elders. And I want them to know that we see and hear them, and not only
Hmm.
the remaining time they're here, but after. And then the other thing that makes me really smile is we know the elders are young people. People
Hmm.
are coming in. I mean, nobody told the Dalai Lama you're not an elder when you were little. they're,
Right.
they're here amongst us, like your
I
granddad
know.
and my son. It's like, oh my gosh, wow, yes, we're gonna get this all back in harmony, and
Yeah.
remembering that we're life-giving forces. We have that power, and we can choose that rather than the one that destroys us and other relatives in the hoop of life.
I tell this story about my granddaughter when she was like a month old. I came to see her, and she was born in Phoenix, and I was living in the Bay Area. And at that time, I was depressed about the environment. I thought we were the only species that doesn't belong on Earth.
Mm,
Take human beings out, and the planet will be fine.
mm.
Okay, that was in my mind when I came to see her. And I held her in my arms, and she looked up at me and she smiled. And it was such a knowing smile. It was as if she was telling me, what do you mean I don't belong? I belong exactly as I am. You're a fool. You don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, I hope one day I get to meet her. But you're right. That it's again that's where we know there is this knowing, this wisdom. It's
Right.
here. And I am so grateful. So the wisdom is in each and every one of us. The wisdom is here. But the
Mm,
wisdom is in nature. And the
mm,
wisdom is in the elders and in the young. And I mean,
mm.
the wisdom is everywhere. So
Right.
why wouldn't we reach out, reach in and reach out to
Right.
bring it all forth?
Yeah. So thank you for the gifts you brought, the sacred gifts that you brought. I put the website on the chat so people can go
Oh,
and
good.
sign
Yes.
up.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you for doing that. That's great on the website. Yes.
So they
Yes.
can sign up for the course on the website and
Yes, they
right?
can.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
FourSacredGifts.com, and whatever link, if you put a link there, yes, just go to that. And if you need more information, when you click it, you can go FourSacredGifts.com/course, and
Hmm.
that'll have a whole bunch more information about it. But
Wonderful.
my wish for all of you is, I feel the elders just want me to say, you really matter. You are part of the hoop of life.
Mm-hmm.
You were before, you are now, and you are in the future. So
Always will be.
thank you. Always will be.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. So beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you.